Well, that's our visit for this week. I've liked being with you this week. Since we're together, we might as well say...
Remember when the most unusual thing on TV was just a cardigan and sneakers? When being kind wasn't seen as weak, and feelings mattered more than what focus groups said? Well, that was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, the show that made PBS like America's babysitter while parents in the 70s were busy explaining why Kojak always had lollipops. For more than 30 years, Fred Rogers showed that you didn't need explosions or cartoon fights to keep kids' attention. Just a gentle man who somehow made being nice feel like a big deal. But behind all that cozy sweater energy, some really strange things were happening in the neighborhood. From urban legends that make conspiracy theories seem normal, to gorillas who knew his routine better than Netflix knows yours. Today, we're counting 15 weird facts about the kindest show on TV. So press that like button, subscribe for more nostalgic deep dives, and hop on the trolley with us, because even the nicest show in TV history got a little strange.
Number 1. The pool scene that quietly changed civil rights history. Most TV shows in 1969 were trying to avoid any trouble, like it was cancel culture, while America watched The Ed Sullivan Show and acted like the Brady Bunch showed what real families were really like.
Oh, there's Officer Clemens. Hi, Officer Clemens. Come in.
Mr. Rogers, how are you?
Fine, won't you sit down?
Oh, sure, just for a moment.
It's so warm, I was just putting some water on my feet.
Oh, it sure is.
Would you like to join me?
It looks awfully enjoyable, but I don't have a towel or anything.
Oh, you share mine.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh,
Come along,
man.
I'll put some more water in.
When Fred Rogers invited Francois Clemens, Officer Clemens, on the show to cool their feet together in a pool, it looked like the most normal thing on TV. 2 men, a hot day, a little water. Instagram-worthy before Instagram even existed, and before anyone worried about going viral for the wrong reasons. But actually, public pools in America were still segregated, and seeing a white man and a black man share the same water was like quietly saying no to racist rules, done gently like a church hymn, and with the surprise of a Christopher Nolan plot twist.
Well, that was so enjoyable. I'm sorry I couldn't stay longer.
Well, I know how busy you are.
Rogers didn't give speeches or start a podcast about it, because back then, you didn't need a content plan to do something revolutionary. He just handed Clemens his towel afterward like it was the most normal thing in the world, because to him, it really was.
I always like it whenever you have time to visit with us. Can I help you here?
Thanks.
They did the moment again in 1993, around the same time Beavis and Butthead were teaching kids that fire was cool, because some lessons are worth repeating, unlike most TV reboots, which only exist to make money from nostalgia. Sometimes the most revolutionary thing is just being kind to people. Try explaining that to Twitter.
Number 2. Batman worked as a stagehand for Fred before he got weird. Before he was brooding over Gotham City and making strange life choices, Michael Keaton was just a guy from Pittsburgh trying to start in show business. His first job was running props on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, because even future superheroes have to start somewhere, and cable access wasn't hiring. That's right, the man who later made audiences believe he could fly in a rubber suit spent 1975 operating the trolley and working as a production assistant. While the rest of America was dancing to Love Will Keep Us Together and wondering if disco would ever die, Keaton was backstage making sure everything worked. Keaton worked as a trolley operator, production assistant, and even appeared on camera as one of the Flying Zucchini Brothers during a circus episode. This was back when actors actually had to learn skills instead of just hiring stunt doubles and CGI teams. Strange idea, we know. Years later, when promoting documentaries about Rogers, Keaton called him one of the most genuine people he had ever worked with, which, considering he later worked with Tim Burton, a man who thinks everything looks better in black and white stripes, really says something about Hollywood's honesty problem. The Dark Knight got his start in the neighborhood of make-believe. Still a better origin story than whatever happened in Batman v Superman, and much more understandable than anything involving Martha. Number 3. His weight was a love letter and a daily reminder. Fred Rogers stayed the same weight for over 30 years, exactly 143 pounds. That wasn't because of good genes or strict exercise routines. It was the most romantic thing you've ever heard, done on purpose. To Rogers, 143 meant I love you. 1 letter, 4 letters, 3 letters. He called it his ideal weight, not for health, but because stepping on a scale reminded him every day of his life's mission. While the rest of America was obsessed with Jane Fonda workout tapes, fans noticed. Now, Pennsylvania celebrates 143 Day every May 23rd. Fred Rogers was so wholesome, he turned simple math into a holiday. Meanwhile, most of us can't even remember our birthdays without Facebook reminders. He found a way to make bathroom scales inspiring. That's either beautiful or exactly the kind of thing that would get you a Netflix documentary about eating disorders today.
Number 4. The sneakers were really about sound, not style.
We might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?
Everyone remembers the routine. Fred walks in, puts on his cardigan, and changes his dress shoes for those blue canvas sneakers. It felt like switching from work mode to relax mode, like changing your Zoom background, but important. And long before anyone pretended their living room was a beach in Maui. But here's the part nobody talks about. Those sneakers weren't to connect with kids, they were for sound. The studio floors made every squeak of dress shoes loud, turning Rogers into an accidental tap dancer every time he moved. The sneakers fixed that problem. Over time, that practical solution became one of TV's most comforting traditions. Kids didn't know they were watching someone fix a production problem. They saw someone getting ready to pay attention to them. A simple budget fix turned into a lesson in mindfulness. Leave it to Fred Rogers to turn a sound problem into a ritual that made millions of kids feel safe. Meanwhile, today's content creators can't even remember to mute themselves on Zoom. Number 5. 1 man, 50 voices. Better than most voice actors. The neighborhood of make-believe felt like a busy community with its own personalities. King Friday the 13th's royal pride, Daniel Tiger's gentle worry, Lady Elaine's wild energy, each added something different. A plot twist that would make Shyamalan proud, Rogers did almost all the main voices himself. While other shows hired full voice acting teams and paid union rates, Mr. Rogers ran a one-man theater behind a cardboard castle. Through those puppets, he could talk about jealousy, fear, and confusion without heavy-handed lessons that make Disney Plus shows feel like public service announcements. No corporate focus groups, just one man switching voices faster than a prank caller. In the 80s, most actors struggled to make one character believable. Rogers made an entire world of main voices and made it look easy, which is more than we can say for most Marvel movies.
Number 6. Every sweater was knitted with love by his mom. Those famous cardigans weren't from the costume department or product placements. They were Christmas presents from Fred's mother, Nancy. And I mean every single one. While most kids never actually get a hand-knitted sweater from mom, Rogers had a mother who really made them. She hand-knitted each one as a gift. That means when viewers saw him put on a sweater, they were actually watching a daily act of motherly love. It wasn't just routine. It was the kind of real content that would break Instagram today. While other TV hosts in the 70s were busy coordinating wardrobe and following fashion trends, Rogers was literally wearing his mom's hug. Nancy Rogers passed away in 1981, and after that, getting replacement sweaters became a real production problem. Suddenly, the most wholesome show on TV had a wardrobe crisis that no costume designer could fix. Try explaining that to network executives who think money solves everything. By then, the cardigans were so connected to Fred Rogers that the Smithsonian now keeps one as a cultural artifact, right next to other American treasures most people under 30 don't know. Most TV wardrobes are about branding and merchandising. Rogers' wardrobe was about family history. That's either really sweet or exactly the kind of thing that would give modern stylists anxiety. Imagine trying to buy real motherly love for a wardrobe budget. Number 7. A gorilla knew his routine better than most Netflix algorithms. Before viral animal videos took over the internet and made us a little dumber, Fred Rogers had the ultimate cross-species fan moment with Koko, the famous gorilla who knew American Sign Language. Even Prime 8 had better educational shows than most cable programs at the time. In 1998, when everyone was still arguing about whether Titanic deserved all those Oscars and wondering if the internet would last, Rogers visited Koko at a research facility. Something happened that would have broken Twitter if Twitter existed. The gorilla immediately recognized him from watching the show on videotape and copied his shoe-changing routine, showing that even gorillas knew the importance of comfy shoes. Koko gently took off Rogers' shoes, just like she had seen him do hundreds of times on screen. Then she signed love and gave him a hug that felt more real than most reality TV in entire seasons. There was no scripted drama, no fake conflict, just a 300-pound gorilla who understood what the show was really about. A 300-pound gorilla understood the neighborhood better than most network executives, which either shows Rogers' universal appeal or how bad TV programming really was. And honestly, considering what was on prime time in 1998, we're leaning toward the latter. Now, before we go to the next batch of weird Rogers facts, let's pause to appreciate that we're halfway through a list about children's TV that doesn't include anyone getting arrested or canceled. If you're enjoying these surprising stories about the kindest man in TV history, smash that like button and subscribe. Unlike most nostalgic content that just makes you sad about how bad things are now, we're here to remind you that good stuff really did exist. Now, back to discovering that even the nicest show on TV had some really strange secrets. Like number 8, the urban legend that made sense but was totally wrong. If you grew up before social media made misinformation an art form, you probably heard the whispered school legend that Mr. Rogers was secretly a Navy SEAL sniper covered in tattoos, hiding a dark military past under all that wholesome sweater energy. Because nothing says playground credibility like saying your favorite TV host could kill you with his bare hands. It was the perfect schoolyard story. Take the nicest guy on TV and give him a secret badass past that would make Marvel executives cry with joy. The story spread because it was so deliciously wrong that it felt right. Kids couldn't believe someone could just be genuinely nice without a dark twist hiding underneath. The truth is, Rogers never served in the military. He was actually a lifelong pacifist who spent the Vietnam War in seminary school. Honestly, he was probably the only guy in the 1960s thinking, this decade needs more theological study. The rumor probably started because there was another Fred Rogers who was a Marine sharpshooter, but facts never stopped a good conspiracy theory, as the internet has later shown. And this was long before deepfakes and AI made everything even more confusing. The idea of the most peaceful man on TV secretly being a trained killer is so wonderfully absurd, it sounds like something a focus group would pitch after too much caffeine. Sometimes the best legends show how much we want our heroes to be more complicated than they really are. Number 9. Live jazz made the neighborhood swing because Rogers had high standards. One of the most overlooked parts of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was the music. While other kids' shows used recorded music that sounded like it was made by AI before AI existed, Rogers insisted on live music. Johnny Costa, nicknamed the coach of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, led a jazz trio that improvised transitions and background music for nearly 30 years. Kids were getting a world-class jazz education without even knowing it. From 1968 until Costa's death in 1996, that piano-bass-drums trio gave the show a level of musical sophistication most children's programming still doesn't try. Because why spend money on quality when you can just license something cheap and trending? Costa didn't just play background music. He set the emotional tone for every scene, creating moments that would make modern content creators cry into their auto-tune software. Most kids' shows treat music like a TikTok trend. Rogers hired a world-class jazz pianist and let him turn everyday lessons into concert-level performances. Number 10. He responded to every single fan letter. Yes, really, all of them. In a time before auto-replies, social media managers, and the kind of digital distance that lets celebrities ignore millions of fans while posting inspirational quotes about connection, Fred Rogers did something that seems impossible today. He personally answered every fan letter he got, 15 to 30 every single day. Back then, real human connection wasn't seen as a problem. With his assistant, Elaine Crozier, Rogers treated each letter like a personal conversation. No form letters, no corporate PR, no replies written by interns, just handwritten answers based on what the child had shared.
While other celebrities in the 80s hired publicists to manage their fan mail, Rogers sat down with a pen like it was 1955. Kids wrote about divorce, death, disabilities, and simple joys. Rogers replied to all of it with the same care he showed on the show, because he somehow missed the memo that fame was supposed to make you disconnected and self-centered. Most celebrities today get millions of social media mentions they never see, then wonder why they feel alone. Rogers turned fan mail into a second full-time job because he believed every child deserved a personal answer. The man was either on a completely different moral level or had never heard of scalability. And honestly, seeing how well that approach worked for him, maybe we're the ones who got it wrong. Number 11. The protest that started with pie throwing and media smarts. Fred Rogers didn't just stumble into children's TV like most people stumble into their jobs. He came in like a very polite revolutionary with a clear target, the kind of violent kid shows that would make modern content look sophisticated by comparison. And considering what passes for kids programming on YouTube today, that's saying a lot. In the 1950s, children's shows were pure chaos. Slapstick, pie fights, pratfalls, and violence were played for laughs. While most adults worried that rock and roll would corrupt kids, Rogers was shocked watching grown adults get pies in the face on live TV. He was angry that kids were being fed digital junk food disguised as entertainment. Instead of just complaining like the rest of us, he decided to make something better. Every slow transition, every thoughtful pause, every gentle conversation was deliberate counter-programming against the chaos. It was like anti-TikTok before TikTok even existed. Rogers looked at pie-throwing clowns and cartoon violence and said, "Not on my watch." Then he spent 30 years proving that kindness could be just as exciting as chaos. The man literally changed children's TV out of spite. Gentle, ministerial spite. Number 12. He was an ordained minister with television as his church. Here's something that surprises people who think all TV personalities are secretly terrible. Fred Rogers wasn't just acting like a nice guy. He was actually an ordained Presbyterian minister whose parish was every child in America, because nothing says thinking outside the box like turning a TV studio into a sanctuary. Rogers was ordained in 1963 with a mission unlike any other ministers in history, to use television as his pulpit and children as his congregation. The Presbyterian Church basically created a job that had never existed before, which is way more innovative than most startups today. While other religious leaders debated whether TV was corrupting society, Rogers was proving it could actually help. That's why The Neighborhood always had moral lessons without ever preaching doctrine or making kids feel guilty for existing. Rogers treated every episode as a form of ministry, teaching patience and honesty through songs and puppets instead of the fire and brimstone style that gave organized religion its stellar reputation. Most ministers get a church building and complaining parishioners. Rogers got a TV studio and a generation of kids who actually wanted to listen. It's either the most beautiful calling in religious history or proof that television was always meant to be a spiritual medium. Number 13. That time he talked about global war for preschoolers and made it work. Children's TV in the 1980s wasn't known for talking about big world problems. Most shows taught kids that problems could be solved with friendship and maybe a little property damage, because nothing says conflict resolution like a cartoon anvil to the head. In 1983, Rogers made a multi-episode story about war, bombs, and conflict, topics that would make modern content creators sweat over focus group reactions. This aired during the U.S. invasion of Grenada and the Beirut bombings, when cable news was just learning how to make everyone scared all the time. Instead of pretending kids didn't hear the same scary words adults were worried about, Rogers addressed it directly using puppets. He talked about peace, fear, and conflict resolution, basically creating the kind of media literacy program we need today, but are too busy arguing about to actually make. The episodes included talks about arms races and gentle explanations of why people fight wars. For preschool TV, it was revolutionary. For network executives, it was probably terrifying. Imagine trying to explain to sponsors why Mr. Rogers was talking about nuclear weapons between segments about sharing and caring. While other shows avoided anything more serious than sharing toys, Rogers explained global warfare to 4-year-olds using hand puppets and piano music. The man had either huge courage or questionable judgment, and honestly, from a distance, those two things often look exactly the same.
Number 14. He couldn't see the colors that made him famous. Perfect irony. Here's a delicious irony that sums up Rogers' whole approach. The man famous for his colorful cardigans couldn't actually see all the colors that made him iconic, because even Fred Rogers had life's little surprises. Rogers was red-green colorblind, which means the famous red sweater now in the Smithsonian probably looked brownish to him. His entire visual brand was built on colors he couldn't tell apart, like being a food critic with no sense of taste, but somehow more meaningful. While color consultants were probably charging other TV shows thousands of dollars to perfect their palettes, Rogers just wore whatever his mom knitted. The detail wasn't widely known until after his death, when colleagues shared it in interviews and biographies. For viewers, those bright sweaters were part of his warm, welcoming image. For Rogers, the routine was about comfort and consistency, not Instagram-worthy looks like we care about today. The man who became known for a red cardigan couldn't actually see red properly. That's either cosmic irony or proof that real content comes from focusing on meaning instead of metrics. Knowing Mr. Rogers, he'd probably say it was both, and somehow make you feel better about your own limitations, too. Number 15. He created television's most subversive show by complete accident. Now, here's the weirdest fact of all. Fred Rogers wanted to make a simple children's show, but accidentally created the most quietly radical program in TV history, more subversive than anything trying to be edgy on premium cable, and without a single anti-hero or violent scene. Think about it. In a time of Cold War tensions and cultural change, Rogers built a world where feelings mattered more than strength, where differences were celebrated instead of sold, and where adults admitted when they didn't have all the answers. It was basically the opposite of everything else on TV then and now. He talked about divorce, death, war, racism, and disability, topics most adults avoided with kids because they're uncomfortable and don't sell products. He did it without preaching, without focus groups, and without pretending life was always easy or problems could be fixed by buying the right thing. The Neighborhood wasn't just entertainment, it was a 30-year demonstration that kindness isn't weakness, that listening matters more than talking, and that every person has worth no matter demographics or market value. Concepts that would make modern executives break out in hives. Rogers never wanted to be revolutionary, he just wanted to help children feel safe in a confusing world. But in a culture that treats kindness as naive and gentleness as weakness and has only gotten worse over time, that simple goal became accidentally subversive. Fred Rogers proved that the most radical art on American TV was treating children like human beings instead of consumer targets. He didn't need explosions, conflict, or fake drama, just a cardigan, some puppets, and the revolutionary idea that everyone deserves to be loved exactly as they are. Try pitching that to Netflix today. And there you have it. 15 weird, wonderful, and accidentally revolutionary facts about a show that proved kindness could be just as exciting as chaos and far more valuable than the algorithm-driven content we get today. Because nothing says quality programming like AI deciding what you should watch based on your browsing history. Which fact surprised you the most? Are you one of the lucky kids who got a personal letter from Mr. Rogers? Or maybe you just needed to hear today that you're loved exactly as you are, even if it feels impossible to believe in today's media world. Share your neighborhood memories in the comments below. We love hearing how these shows shaped who you became back when TV sometimes tried to make people better instead of just more distracted. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more nostalgic journeys into the shows that actually cared about their audience.